Okay, people on chat told me that it is super fashionable to talk shit about LPVO, so I thought maybe there's some interest on me pouring fuel on that fire. So I've been looking for an LPVO for a long time to put on this rifle. As you can see, there is not an LPVO on it. It is a Vortex 2x10 and a red dot on top of it. I think it's a Holosun with a really shitty red dot mount that's just a little hair too high. Yeah, that's another thing. I don't really have this on here, but I have this solution if and when I want it to. Usually I don't bother to put it on because I don't really do practical shooting. And yeah, let's start with the red dot. It is quite high. It's higher than the Unity mounts. It's not really useful for me. So let's just remove that. So if you want to look through it, you can't even put your shin on the stock. A Unity mount, you can at least put your shin on the stock, and then you get this super strange where only the bottom part of the stock hits your shoulder. And that shit is good for standing upright with a straight head and shooting with a face mask or whatever on. Yeah, there's a reason you crouch down to shoot, and that is for recoil management. Apparently, people do not need that shit anymore. They can just one hand and pew pew or something. I don't know what's going on. According to me, that is, yeah, a toy looking for a solution, looking for a problem or something. Yeah, whatever. That's not what this video was supposed to be about. So why did I pick this 2x10, the Vortex 1, PST Gen 2, instead of like literally any other LPVO? This is almost an LPVO. If I put it down on the lowest magnification, it is possible to do some pew-pewing, but it's not good because it doesn't have a really good eye box compared to, for example, a red dot. A red dot on top of a rifle is meant for quick shooting at up to 100 meters. I have gotten hits on target out to 500 with just a red dot, so it's possible. It's easier with a red dot with a magnifier on that you can just put on whenever you need it, which you can use for spotting as well. I do some precision shooting at ranges. So I want something like this. The LPVO has some drawbacks. So first of all, on the side here, I have a parallax wheel, which means I can set the parallax. That is needed because magnified optics are not parallax free. When your head is shifting, the reticule shifts as well. And if you only have a fixed parallax, you don't really know if you're going to hit that distance. So the parallax is set on an LPVO so that it's pretty much okay at most applicable distances, but you don't really know, do you? So with an optic like this, you can set the parallax. Usually you lay prone behind the rifle and you nod your head and the rifle is still, but if the reticule is moving, when your eye is moving, then you know it's out of parallax. So check your LPVO at different distances and see if that happens to you. Then you're gonna have to have the exact same way you put up your rifle and aim as when you zero the rifle, otherwise the zero will shift. And yeah, I just don't trust them because they don't have a parallax setting. Also the turrets, most LPVOs have turrets, but it's very common that it's 0.2 mil or equivalent in MOA. So it's a much coarser adjustment. Usually they have caps on top of the turrets as well. I don't really want that. I want a zero stop. So I can just zero it to 100 and know my holdover is closer in. And then I know what to turn it to for distances or do holdover in the reticule. And the reticule is another thing that LPVOs are usually shit at. Most of them have BDCs, ballistic drop, whatever the C stands for. What that means is that little table, that little Christmas tree they have, is usually a tiny one with only a few marks. That's good for one barrel length with one specific ammunition, nothing else. Then it's just best guess. With a proper reticule and where you know your table, you're not going to have any problems because that, when it's just a mil reticule and you know, for example, this one at 300 meters is about 1.4 mil, then I can either turn the turret or I can hold over in a very nice large reticule that this one has. The reticule for the PST Gen 2 from Vortex is really nice. It can do everything. You can mill targets with it as well. Usually you can't really mill targets. If it has anything, the BDC on LPVOs, it's usually just some variant of a PSO, so you can target an average human or something, or an IPSC target or whatever, since that is the same thing, like torso or whatever. But you can't really mill anything else with those optics. And as I said earlier about iBox, it will never compete with a red dot with the iBox. The red dot, however you hold your rifle, if you see the dot, that is where you will hit. That's just not the way with magnified optics. So even if it's a super good 1x, which none of them are, it's still not comparable to a red dot. And usually the little dot in the middle is much weaker than a red dot as well. So if you're after like red dot performance from a magnified optic, just forget it. Usually people put on like a side mounted or a top mounted red dot anyway, and then you're just adding weight. Then you're back into this solution I have on this rifle. So if I wanted a red dot, I can just clip it on, check 0, done. But I mostly use this when I'm shooting this rifle, so I don't really have a need for it. I have it if I want it. LPVOs always have shitty reticules. Even the really expensive ones, they just have rudimentary reticules. I try to find one. I think the nicest one I found was like some primary arms mill variant. But even that one was really lacking with the hash marks, not really usable. It would be nice to have like a 1 to 10 with a parallax wheel, with regular turrets, preferably locking turrets, so you pull them up when you turn them, and then a good reticule. And one of those, like Schmidt & Bender has a really nice solution where it has a first focal plane and a second focal plane. So first focal plane, the reticule zooms in with the zoom magnification range, and the second focal plane is it stays the same. So it has like a reticule that's really large that stays the same. So when you're at 1x, you see that, and when you're at 10x and you zoom in, the little Christmas tree comes up. But it's still usually kind of shitty reticules. And even the Schmidt & Bender doesn't have the parallax wheel and all that. So I don't know, maybe they're saving features, and then they come up with next generation until it's like a scope like this, but a 1x10. A scope like this that works like to 1x10, if it came on the market now, would just dominate everything, because it's so obviously better. Especially if they manage to get the dot bright and locking turrets and all that good stuff. And even more, especially if they have the 2 reticule option that Schmidt & Bender has on their nice. So that would make me change my mind on the usefulness of that. Then you could probably live without the red dot. But still, I'm going to guess that people would put a red dot on it anyway. But anyway, this is more of a DMR type of deal, if you want to talk in those terms, where you can take accurate shots at to any range where this caliber is effective at. That's probably a little bit of a different market, but as far as I can tell, people make DMR rifles with LPVOs as well. Did I say what the LPVO stands for? Low power variable optic. Wow. Not sure if I'm rambling right now, but yeah, I'm kind of disappointed at the market of LPVOs. It's like they're not trying to make a good product. They're just messing with me. Obviously, they can make optics like this. If this was on 1x10, I would have bought it. But the 1x10s I know about all lack features that I really like that's on this comparably cheap optic. Like $1,000, €1,000, 10,000 Swedish is about the price range of this one. I do use LPVOs though. I have one, and it's on my 4570 right now. And it's the first generation Vortex PST Gen 1s. So it's actually kind of shit, but it's easier to zero with a little shims inside here for the zero stop. And it's still 0.2 mils per click, which is shit. It has a very rudimentary reticule, but it's still mil. I think it's second focal plane though, or is it first? I don't remember. Perhaps it's first. But I did shoot it with the 4570 out to 500 meters, and I got hits on target without any issues. One shot to see where the wind took the lead potato, another shot to hit the target. Not something I could ever use in a hunting scenario, of course. It loses too much energy. But it hit with some authority still, though, at 500 meters. The little plate did its little dance. Okay. yeah. Anyway, so to conclude, LPVOs aren't total shit. If you have a genuine need for it, get one, I guess, but know the limitations of an LPVO. It's not going to do everything for you. Usually, depending on what you're using it for, there's probably better solutions. So, for example, if I was an IPSC shooter, I would probably still just stick with a red dot and perhaps a magnifier for the longer ranges, and then just know my holdovers. I don't know. I'm not an IPSC shooter, so I don't listen to any IPSC advice from me. It's probably shit. But if you're trying to hit at any distance and do some actual semi-long range shooting, a solution like this is much better than an LPVO. I think it's just one of those things where it's a solution looking for a problem. It's kind of good at solving some problems, but according to me and my usage scenarios, stuff like this will solve those problems better. Also, this is probably unnecessary to say, but I live in Sweden. Guns are for sport shooting and hunting and collecting, nothing else. So if you're doing something else with your guns, this advice might not be for you. Have a nice day.